and welcome to Early Childhood Ireland's podcast. Our podcast features interviews and discussions on all issues relating to quality early learning and care, with a range of speakers who are leaders in the areas that matter to Early Childhood Ireland members. I'm Maura Corbett, and I work with Early Childhood Ireland. This episode, which is wrapping up our series on transitions, I'm delighted to be chatting to my colleagues Fiona Kelleher and Milica Atanackovic about one of the EU projects Early Childhood Ireland is involved with. It's called TRAP, and it relates to transitions, which, as you know, we've been focusing on over the past few episodes of the podcast. Milica is the Research and Professional Learning Manager with Early Childhood Ireland. Her background in early years is rooted within a passionate interest in creative arts and child participation. She originally studied design communication before moving into early childhood care and education in Australia. Considering training and mentoring as key elements of quality in early learning and care, Milica has worked as an educator, service manager, and trainer. And she also combines experience from a range of creative disciplines to her work. Fiona works with Early Childhood Ireland as our EU project officer. She has a BA honours degree in early childhood care and education and an MA in leadership and advocacy in the early years. She's currently leading a number of EU-funded projects and is coordinating and collaborating with a number of countries in Europe within the ECEC sector. And Fiona is also a Martin Mayo colleague trainer because this is an area of key interest for her. So both Milica and Fiona believe strongly in the importance of transitions as key indicators of quality when they're child-centred and ensure that children's well-being is the main consideration. So you're both really welcome, Fiona and Milica.
Thanks, Maura. Great to be here.
Thanks, Maura. Great to be here as well. Yeah, delighted.
Okay, Fiona, I think I'll start with you. Can you tell me a little bit about the TRAP project?
I can, of course, yeah. I suppose you've given us a very nice introduction there, Maura. Thanks very much. And I am currently the EU project officer with Early Childhood Ireland. And this is one of a few projects that Early Childhood Ireland are involved in or were involved in, because this project has just very recently come to an end. So TRAP is about enhancing transition practices in early childhood education, and it was a KA2 European funded project. And I suppose really if it was running from October 2018, it was due to be completed 2 years later. It was a 24-month project. However, due to COVID-19 and all that went with that, we got a slight extension to March. So we've just kind of come to the end of the project. We worked with some European partners on this, and we had the pleasure of working with our lead partner, which is from Croatia. And we also had partners from Iceland and Sweden. So please don't ask me now to speak in any of those dialects because I'm not able. I am just—
So developing language skills wasn't part of the brief, Fiona, no?
Not necessarily more. I learned a few phrases along the way, but definitely it was exciting to be able to visit some of these countries and experience the culture, but I wasn't an expert in the language. But getting back to the project, I suppose the overall aim was to enhance and extend, I suppose, the understandings of transitions and the practice that's required for transitions from ECEC context into a primary school context. That was kind of the overall goal and the overall aim of the project.
Millie, do you want to add something there?
Yeah, I suppose just to say that, as Fiona explained, the aim was to bring transition practices focusing on the transition from ECEC to a primary school within the 4 partner countries, to a wider audience. But I suppose it's important to also say that we really do recognise that this is only one area of transitions. And, we really recognise that transitions look and feel very different in the diverse locations and communities that they happen. So I suppose, we'd say there's still a lot more work to do in that area. But in relation to this project and the aim of this project, it very much was the focus. And as the Irish partners in this project, we were also very happy that we were able to share a range of articles and recorded materials from the NCCA, particularly including Mushgale and also the Asher Shield to Practice Guide. So, this project was also a great opportunity to, I suppose, give this work an EU platform. So I suppose that's another aspect of the project that, from our perspective, is really beneficial to the Irish audience as well, but also to the European audience, where they can really see examples of the resources that we have and have been developed, as I say, by the NCCA.
And what, Millie, did the programme contain? What was involved in the content?
So more the programme content really drew on rich information and an evidence base that really offered practice-based examples in the area of transitions and the transition, as we say, from ECEC into primary school. So I suppose the overarching aim of the content was to build the learner's knowledge on the topic of transitions, and then to provide tools and resources to build practical skills and expertise. So, ultimately to support quality experiences for young children. It was divided across 3 overarching themes, which were the understanding of quality transitions, a child-centered approach to transitions, and then building sustainable transitions. And in relation to how each module unit was developed, we actually developed this together under a framework. So each of the units has an introduction that sets the context. And it was really, the aim was to highlight examples from each of the partner countries. So as Fiona mentioned, the partners were Croatia, Sweden and Iceland. So each of the modules contains information and practice-based examples from those countries, providing links on resources, further reading, really to sort of encourage critical and reflective thinking. And then obviously, as I had already mentioned, we were really really happy that we were also able to include Irish evidence and Irish resource examples as well, Maura.
I think the fact that we have tools in Ireland like Mushgale, it's great to be able to kind of showcase that kind of national policy and practice on a European stage. It's kind of it was a good opportunity and great to show that we're kind of leaders in that kind of practice as well. Were the materials piloted, Fiona?
Yeah, Maura, and you're absolutely right. It was a wonderful opportunity to showcase, I suppose, some of the great work that's already happening in Ireland around transitions, and we really wanted to acknowledge that work that was done by NCCA. So that really shone through, actually, from the pilot. To be quite honest, was a pilot took place, albeit virtually due to COVID, in each of the partner countries. And it was an opportunity, I suppose, for us to share the resources that we had developed and the modules, and for I suppose participants to bring themselves through it at their own self pace over a period of time, and then come back, and we held focus groups and gathered up all of that really rich data to give us some valuable feedback in relation to what was working really well, what they liked, what could be changed. And one of the things that really shone through was they loved the examples from practice that Millie has talked about, even though it's all embedded and has grown out of research that has been done. It is those practical examples that people kind of really tune into, and also seeing what's happening in other countries. So seeing examples from Iceland and Sweden, and then of course ourselves in Croatia. It was a wonderful opportunity. So the tools from Mushgale got a great I got great feedback, and a lot of our European partners and participants really enjoyed the videos and the tools that we shared with them. So it was a successful pilot, albeit it was very challenging at the time due to, I suppose, the restrictions of COVID. So we had to think a little bit outside the box. We had to change some of the ways that we planned to do things. And that's okay. It just shows we had to be a little bit more adaptable and flexible, but we still got great results. So we were delighted with the pilot more, yeah.
I think it's something COVID has done for us, actually. It has maybe given us the confidence, because we maybe in some cases had no other choice than to think outside the box. We kind of had to let go of the securities and know that even if something didn't work, it was better than not trying something. And I think we all kind of react well or gravitate well to examples, practical examples from practice. It kind of helps everybody see what can be done.
Yeah, your previous speakers spoke of that, some really good examples that they're using, Kathleen and Lorraine Cash, which again is just showing how they thought outside the box and had to change things around to support transitions for the children in their care, like a lot of other services are doing across the country, which is just, commendable.
I suppose as well, Maura, one of the, not necessarily the aims, but when we were developing the content, it was important for our partners on the project. A lot would, have a lot of research experience and would work in the area of research, particularly in relation to transition. So it was important that we did have, theoretical concepts and recent research to draw on. But again, to marry that then with, what that looks like in practice. So, bringing that theory then into practice, was really quite important to all of us as partners. I suppose Fiona, myself, and Anna, one of our partners in Croatia, having experience from practice, we were quite passionate about that and would have, been really eager to ensure that was a very strong aspect of the content that we were delivering, but also really important as well for learners if they want to engage in further learning or reading, or to, really engage a little bit more in some of that theory and some of that research that's been carried out within Iceland, within Sweden, within Croatia, that, it's accessible and there within the program.
And as well as that, Millie, I suppose it's important to note that originally it wasn't the plan to have these videos, that we had to change the way that we were going to present these modules, and we chose the videos for that reason. And you'll hear Millie's beautiful dulcet tones all over them. So she did a great job on all of that. And I think it was lovely for the learner or the participant to sit down and listen and watch at their own pace and actually see them in action, see the resources, hear little interviews and with different people from different countries on how they've used some of them or what transitions mean to them. So I just think that the project kind of took a little turn, but a turn for the better in the end, because we were very happy with the end result.
Yeah, I mean, as Maura was saying, it did. There was definitely a very, very steep learning curve, and I can actually say my voiceover skills have definitely improved.
We noticed.
Since my trap recordings, but we hope that the learner will get the messaging that comes across as I try to, and as we all try to bring across as best we can. And obviously there was limitations within the technology, and at that point, voiceover skill sets as well.
Yes, so much audio and video is kind of the order of the day now. It's a medium that we've become more familiar with and more comfortable with than maybe we would have thought 18 months ago.
Oh, it's so true, Maura, so true.
So in terms of sharing all the expertise and giving our members the opportunity to hear the dulcet tones, as Fiona said, how is that going to happen? And where can the materials be found?
So we're absolutely delighted that this programme is actually on the Early Childhood Ireland YouTube platform. So they are accessible and available to anyone that wants to engage with them. We would definitely encourage those that are interested and learners who are interested, to go through the programme content, as it is laid out. However, you can still engage in the program and the videos at your own pace in your own time, and you can pick and choose if you want to, of course. So they're easily accessible, Maura. As Fiona said, they're asynchronous, so they are self-paced. You can get onto them and stop them and start them and come back to them, and they're a good opportunity, I suppose, for teams. If they're interested in the area transitions, or they're even just trying to, explore further transition practices and examples from other countries, that these are a great tool that can be utilised and can be watched on any kind of digital device, again, because they're on the YouTube platform.
And can I just add to there as well, because I think it's important to say that, obviously you can sit and do this yourself, no problem, as an individual. But as Millie said, within your own staff team, it is a great opportunity for that continual professional development as a tool for CPD. And also to strengthen your reflective skills. So maybe to get coming together as a team to reflect on your transition practices within your setting, see what they're doing in other countries, as we've already said, but also to really just to think about what you're doing in your own individual setting with your team, and see if there's any changes, what you're doing really well, maybe acknowledging that, but also seeing is there any gaps or anything that could be done differently. And I feel these little videos, I suppose, or modules or units or whatever terminology we want to use, I think it's a great opportunity to do that. And they don't take a huge amount of time, because we were very cognizant that we didn't want them to be too long. So I think, on average, maybe each video on average could be less than 10 minutes. So that's not a huge amount of time. And if you break it up, I think it's a nice opportunity to kind of over a longer period with your staff team to reflect. And we were very, I suppose, we were very diligent to ensure that there was opportunities to reflect all the way throughout the content.
Absolutely, Fiona. And I think that's an important point, that they really encourage reflective opportunities, and we would say that those opportunities can really happen really well when you're sharing those discussions or that dialogue with your colleagues, and you're talking about exactly what you're saying, those kind of transition practices. And as we were saying earlier, that while yes, this is, the focus is on preschool to primary school, there's still lots of opportunities even within the content to explore, transitions and how they happen in the day-to-day as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like Kathleen and Fiona Cash in the previous, Kathleen and Lorraine Cash in the previous episode talked about the importance of transitions between rooms within the day.
Yes, absolutely.
It's important to look at some of these exemplars and see how they can be applied to the other transitions that children undergo. So so that those experiences are as smooth and as child-centered as it's possible to be. I love too the fact that the videos are kind of short, that they don't take too long, and that they enable us to reflect on what we're doing well, so that we can kind of document that and maybe point it out to parents, inspectors, and so on. So thank you both. That was really interesting to hear more about that project. I'd heard bits of it before, and I think members will be delighted to hear that work that's been going on and the adaptations and changes that COVID necessitated throughout the process. And thanks to you, our listeners, for tuning in, and keep tuned for the next episode. We hope you'll join us the next time. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, please tell your friends and colleagues.
Thanks, Maura.
Thanks, Maura.
Thanks both.